रहे धारा श्री जी के संग, सो बिहारी जी शून्य मन मजकुर, कही जिनको हम निकालत, ताए ना करत क्यों दूर, इन बात की उनके दिल में रहे शक, मेरा हुक्म न मानत ये आप कहावे बुजुर्ग, मेरा हुक्म न मानत ये आप कहावे बुजुर्ग। बोलिए श्री धाम के धनी की जय, सद्गुरु महाराज की जय, प्राणनाथ प्यारे की जय। We talked about Mahamati Prananath's arrival to Surat. We talked about the equality that Mahamati Prananath espoused, equality based on gender, race, socioeconomic status, or any other attributes. Mahamati Prananath accepted everyone, regardless of their faith, caste, creed, gender, or things of that nature. That we also know that the world still wrestles to establish. We even compare that with the state of equality in the United States, one of the most prosperous, one of the most developed nations in the world, where people still talk about Black Lives Matters and Blue Lives Matter. Mahamati Prananath was awakening people of different caste and creed and religious denominations, treating them equally, treating them all with justice, and embracing them regardless of their status. So that is the faith we are the adherents of. That is the faith we are taking to the next level. That is the faith that Mahamati and Satguru espoused. So dear Sundar Saji, we talked about us being the luckiest of all the religious followers because we are given the transcendent understanding and we are equally embraced by Mahamati Prananath, regardless of the state of our mind, regardless the state of our material existence, materially, economically, socially, and spiritually. Regardless of what state we are in, Mahamati Prananath says we can continue our journey. Sota हुए सो जागियो, जागा हुए जागा सो बैठा हुए, बैठा ठाड़ा हुए, ठाड़ा पाऊ बने आगे. So regardless of the state of your awakening, you are still in good hands so long as you are moving towards his Mahamati Prananath. So let's continue with the discourse today. As we know that Bihariji did not agree to collaborate with Mahamati Prananath in the awakening of souls. Bihariji declined Mahamati Prananath's offer. Also, Bihariji didn't accept the request of Mahamati Prananath to reinitiate Dharavai and his family into the faith. And when he reached Nautanpuri, Bihariji came to know that Prananath reinitiated Dharavai into the faith. As scores of his requests were turned down by Bihariji, where once he was in Nalia. Bihariji was not happy with Prananath's decision to also take in Ramji Bhai, whom Prananath had sent to Nautanpuri and did not have anything to offer to Bihariji. He waited for Bihariji for 3 years at the gates of Nautanpuri Dham, but he was not let in. He came back to Prananath crying. He was not allowed into the faith, and Mahamati Prananath accepted his request into the community of Sundar Sats. Mahamati Prananath, once he knew that he was not happy, Bihariji was not happy, and had the grievances relayed to him, Mahamati Prananath replied to the concerns and grievances of Bihariji, and he said that he would never hesitate to help Sundar Sats in need. He would always be with the poor, with the weak, and the disabled. Regardless of their state, Mahamati Prananath said he would awaken them with the transcendent understanding and guide them personally towards the eternal abode, Paramdham. तब श्री जी साहेब जी ने कहा, जो कोई लूला पांगला साथ इंद्रावती न छोड़े तिनको पहुंचावे पकड़ के हाथ. So he said, he promised that he would always be there for those Sundar Sats who needed assistance. Guruji often said, there are 4 types of people with 4 different personalities and characteristics. One, those who would say that whatever is mine, and whatever is yours is also mine. And one type of people. The next type is whatever is mine, and whatever is yours is yours. Third are the people, the selfless people, who say yours is yours, whatever is yours, and whatever is mine is also yours. So those are the liberal ones. Those are the ones who would serve others, who would like to serve others. And there are the awakened souls who would say, nothing's yours but mine. It is all His, it is all God's, it's all Raji's. Mahamati Prananath was the awakened soul. So he would leave everything up to Sri Raji Maharaj. Just like the world belongs to nobody, and everyone lives this world with nothing. Basudha kahu ki na bhai. A lot of people hold grudges against people. They become critical, and they stress a lot about what people would say about them. Mahamati Prananath knows that these are the things that we better avoid. In the hearts of Mahamati Prananath, it's all Raji's Leelas. Everything revolves around Sri Raji Maharaj. Versus Bihariji, for whom everything revolves around him. Everyone should try to please him. Because in one way or the other, he is a narcissist who had an inflated sense of his own importance, a deep need for excessive attention and admiration. He had troubled relationships with Sundar Sats, and he absolutely had a lack of empathy for others. So these are 2 different personalities as we look into the lives of the personalities of Prananaji and the personality of Bihariji. In fact, Dharma should embrace people irrespective of their socioeconomic status, gender, racial, or sexual orientation. Even today, there is a lot of discussions about whether gay and transgender people should be included in the faith. They should be treated fairly, they should be treated equally. There is a lot of discussions on that. There are some faiths, renowned faiths, even today, where women are not allowed to go to the religious institutions of their faith. Mahamati Prananath, in the philosophy he preached, promoted the sense of equality and acceptance. As we said yesterday, Tartham states that we are all the divine consorts of Aksharatit Sri Krishna, living in that effulgent abode, and have the non-dual existence with the Lord. Advaita, a relationship. May have different material identities, we may have different bodies, but we are all from the same abode, says Mahamati. Hum tum ek vatan ki apani ruh nahi do. A lot of Sundar Sats began coming to Mahamati Prananath. We heard the story of Ramji and Shyamji yesterday. Shyamji was promptly accepted by Bihariji because he could donate some money and then organized a feast for Bihariji and all the other Sundar Satji, and Ramji was not even allowed in to Nautanpuri Dham. And Govardhan Bhatta, one of the Sundarsans, came from Avasi Bandar. And Mahamati Prananath said he did not need to see Bihariji because he very well knew that he would not be treated justly, he would not be treated fairly. His Mahamati Prananath's teachings, Mahamati Prananath's discourses, and their glory began to spread across the town of Surat. A lot of religious scholars and a lot of followers of different faiths began coming to his discourse, and including those were Bhimbhatta and Syambhatta, the prominent Vedanta scholars. Uno eka pakha Vedanta ka tina guru sannyasi sambhunatha taye vastu gati dusara nahi inat sarasami lage saath. The guru of Bhimbhatta and Syambhatta was the scholar of Vedanta. He was a sannyasi, a hermit, a renunciate. And Bhimbhatta and Syambhatta were quite erudite in the teachings of Vedanta. And for them, Vedanta was the most supreme among the Hindu philosophies, or darsanas. As you might all be aware, there are 6 darsanas in Hinduism, including Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaisesika, and Vedanta, and Mimamsa. So these are the 6 philosophies, or 6 shastras as we know. And Bhimbhatta and Syambhatta know a lot about Vedanta and the teachings of Vedanta. Vedanta ki characha wo to janata sab, says Laldas. They know a lot about Vedanta. Ye charcha tina upara, and they want the discussion in the teachings of Vedanta, and they do not care about anything else. Ye charcha tina upara aur koi nahi matlab, they don't care about anything else but the discourse on Vedanta. And Mahamati says, in crude terms, bring it on, guys. What questions do you have? Because the transcendent understanding of Tartam reveals the secret of all the scriptures there are in this world. So let's get deeper into the teachings of Vedanta philosophy and the discrepancies in the belief systems within Vedanta. There are different explanations for the relationship between the Jiva, or the Atma, or the soul, and the Brahma, the Lord Supreme. So based on their relationships, Vedanta philosophy have different schools of thoughts. So let's get into what Vedanta is and how Mahamati Prananath answers their questions and awakens Bhimbhatta and Syambhatta. So Vedanta literally means Ved and Anta. The end of Vedas is what Vedanta literally refers to. And it is originally referred to the Upanishads. And the Upanishads are regarded as the end of Vedas in different senses, such as they were the last literary product of Vedic period. So Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sam Veda, Athar Veda came first, and the saints and sages bring the essence of those Vedic understandings into their works that are known as the Upanishads. And there are 108 of them. And Upanishads mark the culmination of Vedic thought, and these were taught and debated last in the student life, in the Brahmacharya period. And Vedanta is among the 6 orthodox or astic thoughts of Indian philosophy, and also they are known as the Uttara Mimamsa, which means the latter inquiry or higher inquiry, and is often contrasted with Purva Mimamsa, or the primary inquiry, which primarily deals with the ritualistic aspects So Vedanta is about a higher understanding, higher pursuit compared to the religious practices that people perform. The karma kanda, as we say, the ritualistic aspects of spirituality. And Vedanta is knowledge based. It is thought based, thought provoking practice of spirituality. I'm going into details of Vedanta because until we understand Vedanta, we cannot differentiate between Vedanta is different schools of thought such as Advaita Vedanta, Dvaita Advaita Vedanta, Visishta Advaita Vedanta, and different schools of thought within it, and how it differentiates from the teachings of Dharma. There are three sources for Vedanta philosophy. The first one is the Upanishads. The second one, the Brahma Sutras. And third one, the Bhagavad Gita. So what does Vedanta do? What does Vedanta reveal? Or what are the contents of Vedanta philosophy? There are three fundamental metaphysical categories in the relationship that Vedanta philosophy expounds. Number one, the Brahma or the Ishvara, the ultimate reality. The second one, the Atma, the soul, the Jivatma, the individual soul or self. And the third one, the Prakriti, the Jagat, the world, the empirical world, ever-changing physical universe, body and matter. So Vedanta tries to relate these three metaphysical entities, Brahma, soul, and Prakriti, or the world or nature that we know about. So these relationships are explained in Vedanta philosophy. There are different concepts about the supreme reality, the Brahma or the Ishvara in Vedanta philosophy. Sankaracharya, one of the most recognized scholars who formulated Advaita Vedanta, he talks of two concepts of Brahma. One, higher Brahma. The higher Brahma is undifferentiated being, and lower Brahma. And translating that, it comes out as Parabrahma and Aparabrahma. Parabrahma, the absolute, infinite, transcendent, supra-relational Brahma, who is beyond all thoughts and speech. And Aparabrahma, the Brahma with qualities of a Saguna Brahma, Brahma with form. So according to Advaita Vedanta, the Parabrahma is without form, is transcendental, cannot be understood, cannot be known, is beyond thoughts and speech. And the other one, Saguna Brahma, who is endowed with attributes and represents the personal God that you can relate to, you can approach. That is one school of thought when it comes to Vedanta explaining or Vedanta conceptualizing the supreme reality or Parabrahma. And there was Ramanujacharya, who expound the school of thought which is known as Vishishtadvaita Vedanta. And this Vedanta tradition or this Vedantic school of thought rejects the Nirguna Brahma, Brahma without attributes. It rejects that and accepts Brahma as Ishvara, a personal God, who is the seat of all auspicious attributes. The God of this philosophy is accessible to devotees, yet remains absolute. There is another one, another school of thought in Vedanta, propagated by Madhavacharya, and it is known as Dvaita Vedanta, dualism, where they believe that Lord Vishnu is the supreme God, who is a personal God, who can be reached, who can be prayed to, who can be approached, who can be found. And the other one is Dvaita Dvaitvad, promoted by Nimarkacharya. And for him, Brahma is both with attributes, saguna, and without attributes, nirguna. Brahma with form, Brahma both as personal and impersonal, Brahma both as eminent and transcendental. The other school of thought in Vedanta was explained by Vallabhacharya, which is known as Suddha Dvaitism, pure non-dualism. And it not only accepts the three essences of Brahma, but also the manifestation of the Supreme Being as personal God. So basically they say that God, or the Brahma, that is transcendental, manifests itself as the personal God, as matter and as individual soul. So all that there is in this world is the manifestation of the Brahma, according to Vallabhacharya and Shuddhadvaitism. So this is how different schools of thoughts in Vedanta explain the Supreme Brahma or the Supreme Reality. What about the relationship between Brahma and the soul, Brahma and the Atman? Based on that, we know whether it is Dvaitism or Advaitism. Advaita Vedanta clearly states that Atman or the Jiva, the soul, is identical with Brahma, and there is no difference between the two. So Advaita meaning they are one basically. Vishishtadvaita, for them, Jivatma is different from Ishvara, though eternally connected with the Lord as his mode. The oneness of Supreme Reality is understood in the sense of an organic unity. Brahma alone is organically related to Jivatma, and material universe is one universal reality, according to Vishishtadvaitism. There is Dvaitism. For them, that school of thought, Jivatma is totally and absolutely different from the Brahma. There is Shuddhadvaita, pure monoism. For them, for that school of thought, Jivatma and Brahma are identical. And along with the changing empirically observed universe, being Krishna. So this is how these schools of thoughts in Vedanta philosophy explain the relationship between Brahma and the Atman. So let's get into Advaita Vedanta a little deeper, because it is among the most recognized schools of thoughts in Vedanta. And how Vedanta, particularly Advaita Vedanta, is different than the teachings of Mahamati Prananath. The teachings of Sankaracharya, Advaita Vedanta, and Mahamati Prananath's teachings of the Tartam philosophy, they both talk about Advaitism. This is Advaita Vedanta. Mahamati Prananath's philosophy is known as Solila Advaitism. So we will explain what Solila Advaitism is, the philosophy of Mahamati Prananath, and how it differentiates with Advaita Vedanta. There are quite a few similarities between Advaita Vedanta and Mahamati Prananath's philosophy. We'll explain that as well. And why Mahamati Prananath's philosophy is higher in the sense of explaining the Brahma in a clearer manner. So for Advaita Vedanta, Brahma is one and only reality, and everything else is a mere appearance, projection, formation, or relation. Tartam absolutely agrees with that principle. Brahma is one and one reality. Everything else is the mere reflection of it. The Satchidananda Brahma, the existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute Brahma, has three aspects: Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Sat aspect is the infallible Akshar Brahma. Chit is Sri Raji Maharaj or Aksharati Sri Krishna himself, and through the bliss aspect, Syamaji and 12,000 souls, along with 25 aspects of Paramdham, were created. So all that exists in reality is the Supreme Brahma. And then what about this world? It is just a mere reflection. As Advaita Vedanta explains and Mahamati Prananath explains, it is a mere dream of Akshara Brahma. So there we can agree that both Advaita Vedanta and Tarkam express the similar ideas. So in Advaita Vedanta, the mere projection or illusion is explained in terms of, with the reference of a snake, seeing a snake in a rope when it's lying in darkness. And Tartam goes a little ahead. It is not the rope, it is the rope that is burned to ashes. So it is not even rope. It is not just mere projection. It is absolutely unreal. It is not even a rope. It is non-existent. The world, the universe that the world is so engaged in does not, in essence, exist. Because in reality, my dreams do not exist. The relationships I have in a dream have no empirical value. Once I'm awake, I do not care about what I had in my dream, whom I met in my dream, because essentially they are all unreal. According to Advaita Vedanta, Atman, or this individual self, has no separate existence of its own, but it's a projection, a reflection of Brahma in each being. So it says that Atman without Brahma has no separate existence. And in that terms, it is Advaita, non-dual. Mahamati Prananath says the same thing, but he believes that the Atman of this material world has no eternal existence. Let me explain it. It's a little deeper philosophical discussion, but for that matter, that we are trying to compare, analyze both of these philosophies, Vedanta and Mahamati Prananath's Tarkam philosophy, we should understand this concept. Mahamati Prananath says the Brahma and the souls, our individual self or the Atma, are essentially the same, but not in this world. That applies in Paramdham, that applies in the Lord's abode only, where the souls, the consorts, live in a non-dual state with Sri Raji Maharaj. But if we look into this world, let me give you a reference, let me give you a practical example. The mom that came into my dream, she had a material existence. She had a body, she could eat, she could walk, she could talk to me in my dream. I'm talking about the mom of my dream, not my real mom. So the mom of my dream had the soul as well, because of which she was alive. She was talking to me. She was communicating with me about many things. I was taking her to a movie, I was taking her to a satsang, a religious discourse, and she was joyful, she was dancing and having fun. But what happened when I was awake from my sleep and I was not dreaming any longer? What happened to that soul? That soul perished along with our material existence. Along with our body, our soul was dissolved. So the soul that Sri Krishna talks about in Bhagavad Gita, Nainam Chindanti Sasrani, Nainam Dahati Pavakaha, Nachainam Kedayantyapana Shoshayati Maruta, the soul, the eternal existence that people talk about, the Atman, is not even eternal. The Atman, the soul, the individual self of the Brahma's abode are eternal. So the concept does not match here. Mahamati Prananath gives that reality a different name that he calls by Para Atam. So there is Atam, there is Paratam, and there is Param Atma. So Atma, Paratma, Paramatma. These are three distinct characteristics. These are three different distinctions in terms of the self, in terms of the soul. As Vedanta says, as the jivas are deluded by ego, desires, and other impurities, they experience duality and separation. And it can be agreed upon based on the teachings of Mahamati Prananath. It is because of our material existence. It is because we are engaged in this world and think it is real. That is why we see the duality between ourselves and the Brahma. But basically, when we are awakened with this transcendent understanding, we are one with the Lord. And instead of all is one, Mahamati Prananath teaches all in one. Not all is one. Not everything is one, but all in one. So everything exists because of the Lord Supreme Paramatma, Sri Krishna. So Vedanta philosophy says Brahma is real, that the world in which we live is mere illusion, like a mirage. It appears in our consciousness because of the activity of our mind and the senses. Since we are totally dependent upon these senses, we do not perceive Brahma. And Mahamati Prananath would absolutely agree with the fact that we do not see Brahma, we do not realize Raji Maharaj until we are detached from our sensual acknowledgement, the acknowledgement of our senses and our minds. When we are fully withdrawn from this world, our senses, and through our purity, renunciation, when we do that, we can see the Parabrahma, we can see the Brahma hidden in all, and we attain liberation. So we see Raji Maharaj residing in the hearts of the pure souls. Not in everyone, the soul that Vedanta talks about. There are three types of souls that every religion expounds. Hinduism talks about them being Buddha, Mumukshu, and Mukta. Christianity talks about three types of souls as people of water, people of spirit, and people of flesh. Islam talks about Am, Khas, Hasal. So three types of souls are explained in different religious traditions. And Christianity even says only the people of spirit and people of water make it to heaven, and people of flesh have no entry into the heavens. So there are some similarities in Advaita Vedanta and Mahamati Prananath's teachings, but the mere difference, the differences that we see is the fact that they see Brahma's manifestation in this world as Atman. And Mahamati Prananath says the Atman of this world, the Jivas of this world are not the manifestation of the Lord Supreme. They are the manifestation of Narayana. the Chera Purusha, the perishable Brahma, who said, Ekoham Bahushyam, I am alone, let me be many. He did not know the Lord Supreme is the first Purusha, the first father of all creation was ignorant. The seed was ignorant. The seed was based on ignorance and dream and forgetfulness. Everything and everyone in this world is forgetful of that eternal being, the Lord Supreme. So the world is forgetful of Brahma. So Mahamati Prananath is against the idea that God is omnipresent. And Mahamati Prananath is again against the idea of Brahma without attributes, Brahma that is without forms. So he is opposed to these two primary concepts of Vedanta philosophy. According to Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, there are 4 sets of qualifications which are required or essential in achieving salvation. Number 1, the ability to discriminate between what is eternal and what is temporary, what is nitya and what is anitya. It is called nitya nitya vastu viveka. And Mahamati Prananath also would agree to this fact that we should be able to discern what is eternal and what is not. Chera Niraku Nirnay, as we talk about when we talk about the glory of Satguru Maharaj, that he could discriminate between what is eternal and what is not. And until we do that, we cannot associate fully with what is eternal and detach from or withdraw from what is anitya, the world itself. The second one is disinterestedness in enjoying fruits of one's action in sense subjects here and hereafter, which actually entails or with the continuation and formation of karma. So even Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna talks about doing the karma without the expectation of its fruits. Doing your karma for the sake of karma, but not attaching yourself to the results. And Mahamati Prananath would agree that it is not the must, but realizing that we should be detached from the fruits of our karma or our reaction would take us towards that eventual goal of self-realization. The third one that Advaita Vedanta talks about in attaining salvation is Sama Adi Sakta Sampati, qualities such as the control of internal sense organs, Dhamma, control of external sense organs, Uparati, abstinence, quietness, sincerity and faith, and Samadhana. These are the important aspects of self-transformation, and without this, one cannot realize salvation. These are some of the attributes, characteristics one should have, and Mahamati Prananath would agree to this fact. And the third one is the intense aspiration for salvation. And according to Vedanta, it happens due to the good works or good karma in the past. According to Bhagavad Gita, only after repeated births, a person feels a strong drive to achieve salvation and turn to the path of salvation. And Mahamati Prananath would agree to that. Until we have the strong longing to be one with Brahma, with Aksharatha Sri Krishna, we cannot be one with him. So these are some of the paths to salvation, and Mahamati Prananath's vision for salvation is a little different. For him, it is the understanding of the Brahma. As Vedanta says, Brahma is transcendent, is transcendental, cannot be understood, is beyond our intellect, beyond logic. Mahamati Prananath says, the Supreme Lord, the Aksharatita, so-called transcendent Brahma, has revealed himself and his leelas to his souls that have come to this the dualistic world to witness suffering, for the eventual realization of their providence to be with in the eternal presence of Sri Raji Maharaj in Paramdham. Ekapatsahi Harasraki Duza Vahidat Thakisaka, to realize their true glory of being in the constant presence of Raji and the love of the Supreme Abode. So there are certain distinctions. So all this Vedanta philosophy talk about this world, although mere manifestation of the world, it can be turned into heaven. It can be realized, these souls, individual souls can realize the Brahma here. The reality, the fact of the matter is, according to Mahamati, only the people with the spirit of the consorts of Paramdham realize that eternal glory of being one with Aksharatita, not everyone, not the jivas. Advaita Vedanta recognizes two forms of causations. One, the material cause, and the other one is the instrumental cause. And according to this school of thought, Advaita Vedanta, Brahma is both material and instrumental cause of creation. Now, where does Mahamati stand on this? So according to Advaita Vedanta, Brahma provides not only the will and direction, but also the material and energy needed to manifest the things, beings, and worlds. According to Vedanta, this Vedantic school of thought, Brahma is both Purusha and Prakriti, the self and nature. This is contrast to some of the Hindu philosophy, which argue that Brahma is the instrumental cause, while Prakriti or nature is the material cause. So here again, Mahamati Prananaji would absolutely differ with this Advaita Vedanta, the thoughts of Advaita Vedanta, because Mahamati Prananaji says the creation, the act of creation is not carried out by the Brahma, the Parabrahma, the Lord Supreme, Aksharati Sri Krishna. He has nothing to do with this. It is the Akshara Brahma who resides beyond the world in the realm of perishableness that perishes. Akshara Brahma is the one who creates the world. And the nature, the Prakriti that people talk about being Brahma is nothing but his desire to create. The Purusha, the self, and the desire to create, creates things. How do we understand this? Me and my desire to have comfort gets me a car. Me and my desire to live comfortably causes me to find a job. Me and my desire to not being alone in this world at my older age gets me to marry someone. Me and my desire creates my offspring. So if we look into this, it is Akshara Brahma and his desire to create that creates multitudes of universes. Vedanta and none other philosophies in the world talk about the simultaneous existence of infinite Brahmandas, infinite universes. While Vedanta talks about Brahma being the cause of all creation, the philosophy of Tarkam, expounded by Mahamati Prananaji, says creation has nothing to do with Raji Maharaj, because Raji has no other work but to shower his love to his consorts. Hakka ko kama kachu aur nahi, deve ruho lad rachata. So There are so many distinctions, yet there are quite a few similarities between Advait Vedanta and Mahamati Prananaji's Solila Advaitism. According to Advaita Vedanta, the world is full of illusion or Maya, which is caused by the veiling power of Brahma. And there is no denying of that. Mahamati Prananaji would agree to that, because Maya is created by the Lord Supreme Himself. As Mahamati Prananaji says, "Ye upajai hamare dhani, so to bata he aptega." The Maya is created by the Lord Supreme. It is unreal and illusory in an absolute sense. Since it is the projection of God's consciousness, it disappears when it is withdrawn. And according to Advaita Vedanta, Maya is neither real nor unreal. Mahamati Prananaji would probably agree to this idea of Maya, the reflection, the veiling power of Brahma, created by Brahma himself. And as such, Maya is hard to overcome. According to Advaita Vedanta, Brahma is supreme, absolute, and eternal reality. It is the only truth, the cause of all. And we would all agree to that. As Mahamati Prananaji says, Sarva Karana Karane. He is the reason behind everything. And according to Advaita Vedanta, Atma is Brahma, perceived as individual self, the hidden reality in all aspects of creation. And that is where Mahamati Prananaji would disagree. Atma is not Brahma. Brahma resides in Atman, but Atma is not Brahma. Because, as we said, there is a concept of Para Atman, that is beyond Atman. And that is the essential part that is indispensable from Brahma or Aksharati Spirit Krishna. In Paramdham, Atman is Brahma, not in this world. And according to Advaita Vedanta, when the self overcomes the veiling, in deeper sense of Tartam, when the soul realizes the coming of spirit of the consort in it, then it experiences non-duality, Advaita Anubhav of existence, and it realizes that it is no different. There is not any difference between the Atman and the Absolute or the Brahma. So the primary distinction between Advaita Vedanta and Mahamati Prananaji's teachings is that Advaita Vedanta considers the soul of this material world as a part of the Brahma, while Mahamati Prananaji says the Brahma and Para-Atam, the supreme souls, the spirits of the consorts, are in oneness, are in non-dual state, but not in this world, but in the eternal abode of Paramdham. So Mahamati Prananaji, when giving the discourse on Vedanta, gives the rebuttal of the understanding of Vedanta. First thing he says, Brahma cannot be formless. Brahma cannot be without attributes. And Brahma definitely is not transcendental. It's not beyond our thoughts and minds. Because Brahma, Parabrahma, has revealed himself to the world through Satguru and Mahamati. Because the void or nothingness does not breed something, does not create something. Giving references to the Vedic scriptures, Mahamati Prananaji reminds Bhimbhatta and Shambhatta that Brahma is in pure, effulgent, divine form. That Mahamati gives the term Suddha Sakar form. He is Satchidananda in his reality. Existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute. And that he is omnipresent, as everyone talks about, but not here in this world, not here in this material created world, but in his own abode, known as Paramdham. As the scriptures say, Vedic scriptures themselves say, Dibyo Amurta Purusha Sabai Hyabhyantaro Hyaja Aprano Manasu Brohe Aksharat Paramdham. He resides in all directions in the supreme abode of Paramdham. The Lord that we are talking about is beyond Akshara. He has Aksharat Paratha Para. He resides beyond Akshara, the creator of this world. The second rebuttal that Mahamati Prananaji gives to Bhimbhatta and Sambhatta of Vedanta philosophy is that Brahma is not omnipresent in this world. And the jivas of this world are not the reflection of the Supreme Brahma. They are the reflection of Char Purusha. They are the reflection of Narayana. As a result of which, everyone is ignorant. Everyone is forgetful. Because the primal force, the primal creator, Adi Narayana, was forgetful of his true identity. He did not know that he was Akshara Brahma in sleep, in dream. The dream body of Akshara Brahma is Narayana. He was unaware of his true identity. So he became plural. He multiplied. The plurality came out of that individual being, or the Narayana. If we look at Narayana, then the world probably can be considered, yes, the reflection of Parabrahma, reflection of Brahma. But if we consider Aksharati Sri Krishna who resides in Paramdham, the effulgent abode, then the world or the Atman of this world are not the reflection of Parabrahma. As Bhagavad Gita chapter 15, first verse says, Urdha Mula Madasa Amashrattam Prabhurabhyayam. The world is just the opposite reflection of Paramdham, or the Supreme Being. They cannot be one, they cannot be polar opposite if they were essentially the manifestation of the Lord Supreme. As the concept of omnipresence of the Lord is concerned, Mahamati Prananaji reminds and asks questions to Bhimbhatta and Sambhatta. In the book of Kirantan, Mahamati Prananaji asks these questions. Vaire Brahma Gyani Brahma Dikhala O Brahma Gyani Brahma Dikhala O Sakala में साईं देखा तुम सकल में साईं देखा ये संसार सकल है सुपना ये संसार सकल है सुपना तो तुम पार ब्रह्म क्यों पेख्या तो तुम पार ब्रह्म क्यों पेख्या सकल में साईं देखा तुम सकल में साईं देखा. Mahamati says, O the awakened souls, please show me the Brahma. Tell me where Brahma is. You see Brahma everywhere in each particle in this world. You say that God or the Supreme Brahma is omnipresent in this world. But the reality is the world is but a dream. So in a dream, how can you find the real? Everything in a dream is illusion. So how could you find Brahma when you would say that Brahma is omnipresent here? Mahamati Prananaji asks further questions. Sat supane mein क्यों कर आवे सत साईं है न्यारा, सत साईं है न्यारा। तुम पार ब्रह्म सो परिचय नाही, पार ब्रह्म सो परिचय नाही, तो क्यों तरोगे पार, सकल में साईं हो क्या। Mahamati asked Bhimbhata and Shambhata the questions. How could the truth come into a dream? Because truth and dream, illusion and reality cannot coexist at the same time. When the sun shines, when the sun rises, there is no darkness in places where its rays reach. Mahamati asked them the questions. The truth, knowledge, bliss, absolute Satchidananda Paramatma resides beyond this material world, transient existence. He cannot be within it. He is not bound by it. Like I said in crude terms, the manufacturer of a television cannot be found within the television. He's not in the television. He gotta build it from outside. So the Brahma is beyond this world, says Mahamati. And as such, you do not know anything about Parabrahma. You do not know anything about the Lord Supreme. And in that case, how would you attain moksha, says Mahamati Prabhuji. When Bhimbhata and Shambhata said Brahma is omnipresent, Mahamati Prabhuji says, if you really believe that, I would say that sun is omnipresent. And they said, if sun were omnipresent, then the world would not be livable. If sun were omnipresent, then everything would be burned to ashes. We would not be able to survive. And they said, it is not that sun is omnipresent, but its light, its brightness is. And Mahamati quickly responds to them by saying, similarly, God is not omnipresent. His satta is, his reign is, his ruling is, his satta is. And Bhimbhata and Shambhata pondered. They began reflecting within the philosophy of Vedanta and the explanations of Mahamati Prabhuji. While butter is prevalent in milk, it cannot be used as the replacement of butter, right? Once the milk is boiled, fermented, and it's made butter out of the process of churning, and when the butter is heated and the ghee is extracted, then we realize the prevalence of ghee and butter. So it was there all along in milk, but until it was extracted, we could not realize the prevalence or the presence of butter in it. Similarly, the omnipresence of the Lord Supreme can be realized, or He can be found in this world once the sadhaka, the aspirants, with his or her sadhana or penance, detach from this world, submit to the feet, submit in the devotion of the Lord, and align with Him. Only through awakening we realize the prevalence of Brahma in this world. In such a condition, God can be called upon anywhere. He can be in our homes. He can be found on the streets. He can be found in temples. Just like Prahlada found Lord Vishnu in an electric pole, in a pole, basically. He came out of a pole. It is not that Lord Vishnu would reside in a pool every day and every moment. He could be called in there. Similarly, Raji Maharaj can be called into this world. For the aspirants, for the true seekers of him, he can be anywhere. There are distinctions between these two realities. That if we say God is everywhere versus God can be anywhere, the reality is the latter. God can be anywhere. He can be found in the oceans. He can be found with the flowing rivers. He can be found in birds and in their sounds and their chirpings. He can be found in air. He can be there, but he is not there. He can be called into these places, but he is not everywhere. So Mahamati Prananath's philosophy is the fact that the Lord Supreme is not omnipresent, or God is not omnipresent in this world. If that was the case, then if God was everywhere in every particle, then there would not be ignorance, because God is knowledge absolute. Chidananda is a Chiditi Gyan Swarupa. He knows everything. If God was there and everything that existed was God, then why would there be a need for these 4 Vedas, 4 Upavedas, 108 Upanishads, Bible, the Quran, and all these religious scholars and religious understandings? Why would there be a need for anything like that? And if God was omnipresent, asked Mahamati, why would people suffer? Because God is bliss absolute. Wherever God is, there is bliss everywhere. And if God were omnipresent, then there would be no suffering in the world. There would be no deaths. There would be no killings. There would be no incest. There would be no bigotry. There would be no tension. There would be no stress. There would be no anxieties. There would be no mental issues. So Mahamati Prananath says, the concept of God's omnipresence is not to be understood being existent in this world, but in Paramdham, for which Vedic scriptures say. I'm about to wrap up. Today's Saturday, so I went a little extra. So Mahamati explains that the Brahma in Paramdham is omnipresent. Everything that's there in Paramdham is like Brahma, in the form of Brahma. You will find him in the east, in the front, in the back, on the right, to the left, found below the surface, up in the sky, and every living and non-living entity in Paramdham has the glory of being in constant presence of the Brahma. And they are all in the form of Brahma. Brahmai Vedam Amitram Mamritam Purastad Brahma Pashad Brahma Dakshina Tasyottarena Adaswardam Prasitam Brahmai Vedam Vishnudam Varistam. So the omnipresence of the Lord Supreme is not to be understood being present in this world, but in Paramdham. So Mahamati Prananath gives his rebuttal and explains to him the underlying message of Vedanta. And Bhimbhata and Syambhata realize how holistic, how Tartam, the philosophy of Tartam, had a deeper understanding of this world and beyond, and discern the differences, the relationship between Atman and the Brahma and everything. Their soul was awakened. On tomorrow's concept, we'll get a little deeper into the awakening of Bhimbhata and Syambhata. We'll also talk about the 40 questions of Bhagavata that Govinda Vyas came with, and Mahamati, how he responded to those questions that people do not have answers to, and the establishment of Sripan's Mahamangal Puri Dham, the Jagani Peeth, the pilgrimage of the adherents of Sri Krishna Pranami faith. So today we went deeper into Vedanta, We talked about Advaita Vedanta and different schools of thought within Vedanta philosophy, and try to distinguish Vedanta from the teachings of Mahamati Prananath, Vedanta from Tartamya philosophy. And I hope that I made it clear. But this is a deeper philosophical concept, so it may take a little longer to understand it all. Thank you all so much for joining, listening to today's discourse.